past me really screwed over current me last year.
God, past you is always doing that. What's up with that guy?
What a jerk. So last year, at the end of the year, I have a window fan that I put in my office window that has like 2 fans. It seals up the whole window, and you can set it either to suck or to blow. So we use it to like suck the hot air out of the house when it's really hot at the end of the day and there's nice cool air outside.
An exhaust fan, yes.
Yes, an exhaust fan. But the fan motor it was like 10 years old. I take it apart and clean it every year and get all the dust and grime off of it because fans in the Bay Area get kind of icky. But the motor was wobbly and it was squeaking. It was making noise, which I can't. No noise.
Zero tolerance for wobbly motors.
I don't truck a wobbly motor. So past me was like, the junk guys are coming to haul. I cleaned out the garage. I put in the junk pile. And then yesterday and the day before, it was like 80 degrees here in beautiful San Francisco.
I heard I've been missing. I mean, we've got plenty of heat here. Don't get me wrong, but I heard I have been missing some warm times out there.
It's been at one point last night at like 7 o'clock. I looked around in my office. I was like, oh, it's 85 degrees in here. That's not what you want.
Nice.
I was like, oh, I'll go to the garage, and get the fan out and plug it in. It's nice and cool outside. This is going to be great. I went to the garage. I looked where the fan goes. I was like, wait, there's no fan. Oh, damn it.
You rendered yourself fanless.
I fanned myself. So I went to Amazon, as one does, and I was like, I'm going to look. I looked at some fan reviews. I'd been eyeing this Vornado window transom fan that Wirecutter likes, and it's like 4 inches tall. You put it in the window. It can be set to either suck or blow, and it's a circulator. It's not a fan. It moves the air through the whole room through some sort of magic designed in Aurora, Illinois, or something. I don't know. Anyway. I bought into it. I was like, I'm going to try this. And Amazon was like, yeah, we can have it there in September. I was like, well, it's August now and it's going to be hot tomorrow. So I went to Home Depot.
Oh, hey, it'll still be hot in September, but go on.
Optimism. I went to Home Depot because Home Depot was like, we have 23 of them in stock.
Okay.
So I rolled up on the Home Depot and I went to I opened up I got there and was like, hey, do you want to use the in-store experience? I was like, this is really cool. It's going to give me like a map and show me where to go in this enormous warehouse so I can find exactly the thing that I want. And I hit the button and it was like, yeah, see an associate. So and it had a picture of where it was on the map. So I went to where it said it was on the map. And I looked around. I was like, there aren't any fans here. This isn't even a fan. This is like, there's a bunch of like blinds that you can cut to your own length here and some screen doors. This clearly is not maybe it's a ventilation section, but it's not where the fans go. So then I like looked around for an associate, and the associates because it's also in the refrigerator section are always insanely busy there because people like to talk to somebody when they buy a fridge. And after waiting about 20 minutes, I talked to the guy and I was like, hey, do you know where these fans are? He's like, oh, well, what does the app say? And I said, it says see associate. He said, well, does it say where it is in the store? And I was like, yeah, it says it's in aisle 41, but I looked there and there's nothing in aisle 41. He's like, yeah, if it's not in aisle 41, I have no idea where it is. It's basically gone.
Cool. So humans and software are equally capable of passing the buck to each other.
Yeah, look,
is what you're saying.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not upset with the guy because he was apologetic. He was like, I'm sorry, this sucks, but like the app ties into the same inventory system we have. So
I was gonna say that's probably all the data he has to work with.
Yeah, he's like, there are probably 23 of these in the store somewhere, but God only knows where, and we'll find it the next time we do inventory, maybe.
Hey, don't you like to combine your retail experience with a scavenger hunt?
Oh God, like Home Depot, having done a couple of big home renovation projects that involved me going to Home Depot or Lowe's every day. If I never set foot in a Home Depot again, I'll be fine. So then he was like, but look, there's another Home Depot like a mile and a half away. You want to see if they have it? And I was like, yeah, let's look. So I looked on the app. He looked on his computer. The app was finished first. And I was like, it doesn't tell me where it is in the store on the app. He's like, yeah, the only way you can do that is if you're in the actual store. It's like, okay, great. So I piled in the car. I drove over to the other Home Depot. I got in. It pops up. It's like it's in aisle 41, bin 7. Told me exactly where it was. It's a fantastic experience. So Home Depot's batting 500 is what I'm saying. Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Hello.
Hello.
Are you cool? Are you enjoying your ventilation, your circulation rather?
So by the time I got home, I set the fan up and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to hook up the air conditioner anyway because it's too hot. It was like the walls were warm.
Mm-hmm.
And
the walls were sweating.
Yeah, the walls were warm. So I put the fan in the kitchen window, set it to exhaust, opened the windows in the bedroom, and turned on the AC in the office, and then turned the whole house fan on, and it got pretty cool. By the time we went to bed, it was okay. So
I have one question for you.
Yes, hello.
And this is not a bone to pick. I'm just going to ask the question. Vornado? Vornado?
I assumed it was like a tornado.
You say Vornado, I say Vornado. What is a tornado? Do you mean a tornado?
No, a tornado is a type of car.
Is that not Toronado?
Toronado, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry I brought this up.
Oh no, now it's happening again.
Your worst nightmare.
This is the lot of words you see. I've never heard anybody say Vornado before.
You think that's not a word? That's not a word.
Toronado?
Toronado?
Toronado? I don't know. My grandfather had a tornado when I was a kid. They always said tornado.
Okay. I know what a tornado is. I can tell you that.
A tornado, it was a big car. That was wide. You could put 4 people across the back seat, no problem.
A tornado is also an air circulator.
That's true.
It turns out.
I don't want one in my house, though, if I can help it.
Probably not. No, what about a minute? What if science could create a tiny miniature tornado that went around your room?
I mean, do you know about the whole house fan thing?
No.
So it's for like $800, $1,000, you cut a hole in your house in the roof and you put a really high CFM fan in it, like a 1,000 cubic foot per minute or something that's like basically like a tornado. And what you do is you crack your windows in each of the rooms. It's hot and you flip that on. The idea is it sucks all of the air out of your house in like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not quite that crazy, but my parents have an exhaust fan in the roof here in the ceiling here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like that.
And it's great for places where we live, where it gets very warm 1 or 2 weeks a year. But the rest of the time, it's very temperate outside. And even at nighttime, it's usually pretty OK.
Yeah. It's also great for areas like here, which get much warmer still and much more humid. Mm-hmm. But let's say the head of the house has opinions about how much the air conditioning should run.
Are you wearing tank tops and stuff down there? Is it that kind of sitch?
Those opinions are minimal. Let's say.
Yeah, we had a similar situation at my parents' house, but unfortunately they put us in the bedroom with the thermostat upstairs.
Oh, good.
So we just made some adjustments because like Gina and I have a hard time sleeping if it's not relatively cool after living on the coast for 20 years, it turns out.
Sleeping cold.
I like to sleep cold. I think
we established it's the best.
I like a great big down comforter in a really cold room.
Okay. We're definitely not doing this again.
Fluffy.
But you know what we are going to do again?
We're going to turn Q's into A's, Brad.
That's right.
It is time.
It is the most magical time of the month.
It's the last week of the month. I can't believe August has left us already. This is amazing.
I know. Yes, it's wild. Time. How does it work?
Well, it goes faster the older you get.
Mm-hmm. No, that's time dilation.
Yeah.
All right. So shall we dive right into it?
Well, I mean, I think we have to tell people how to send these in. If you are a listener on your radio or your Spotify's, wherever you happen to be, you can go to techpod@content.town. That is techpod@content.town. Send us an electronic mail, a missive over the wires, and we may or may not turn that into an A. We don't get as many of those as we get into the Discord channel, Q's Seeking A's, where anyone can jump in and submit a question. They disappear into the void momentarily, and we go to pull down a list of people's seemingly offhand thoughts, their like considerations in the wee hours of the morning or at 2:11 in the afternoon. And I wonder, I was looking at the timestamps on these this month, Brad, and I wondered if there was any correlation between the seriousness of the question and the time of day that it was posted. And it seems like there is not, that I could tell. So
that sounds like that's prime graph material.
Yeah, I should make a graph.
Graphs are cool.
What's our first Q, Brad?
You know what else is cool is all of these questions, because we got a lot of good ones.
Yeah, it was a good crop. Nice work, everyone.
Yes, I'm going to dive into the Discord queues first. We'll do emails at the end.
Okay.
This month. Millhouse Phoenix writes in. What do you do with all the tools that come with various pieces of technology, furniture, etc. that you purchase? Do you keep them with the product, store them all in one place, or ditch them?
Trash or recycle?
No, never.
I have a really nice set of Allen wrenches and star wrenches. I don't need to keep any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's fair. I always worry there's going to be some part in there that's bespoke that I might need someday, but I never do.
It's just garbage. Throw it out.
Do you have a junk drawer? Everybody's got a junk drawer.
Yeah,
right?
It has a bunch of rechargeable batteries in it mostly.
Okay. I do baggy stuff. I do like to just get like a Ziploc and bag up stuff that came with a thing that I didn't use, but surely will someday.
I'm shaking my head. The secret of the junk drawer is to get those little trays. So you go to IKEA or something, and the hardware stores have them. You get trays you can put in a grid, and then they all go in the right way. But I only get trays for about half the drawer, and then the rest is just a mash. I have probably 25 different kinds of different sized button cell batteries, because all the Internet of Shit stuff in the house, like the window sensors and the door sensors and all that stuff, uses weird cell batteries. So I have stacks and stacks and stacks of them.
Do you mean like watch batteries?
2492s, yeah, watch batteries.
Yeah. CR 2032, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's the thick ones, there's thin ones, there's small fat ones, there's small skinny ones. It's a bunch of them.
I defeated myself recently.
Yeah.
When I had to go, I went and bought a whole 6-pack of those things because I thought we needed some, and then immediately found another package of unopened ones in the drawer as soon as I got them home.
I've literally had that happen where I got the package, I put the battery in, I went to put the package where it goes. I was like, well, here's another pack of them.
Mm-hmm. Now we have 8 more. That digital kitchen scale we've got is going to work for the next 40 years.
My kitchen scale is rechargeable. It's got a USB port.
Maybe it's time to upgrade.
It's kind of annoying because it means that there's usually a kitchen scale hanging out of a USB dongle on my kitchen counter, which sucks. Anyway.
Yes. Okay. How about? Okay, you suggested I read this one. I hadn't planned to, but then you bolded it, which I think we've been over this. Our Google Docs language is that you bold things you want to read.
Yeah, and you highlight things you want to read.
I highlight in yellow.
I highlighted that because I just bolded it just now because I meant to bold it at the beginning and I forgot. That's why it was highlighted just now. But you can read it. It's fine.
So you said you wanted to know a question from Warbird. Has Brad gotten used to the notch on his MacBook yet, or is he still using that tool to black out the toolbar at the top like a coward?
I'm going to put my money on coward.
Top notch all the way, man.
Really?
I don't even know it's there. What is it hurting? Like, how is my life significantly materially altered by continuing to use that tool?
Oh, okay. Yes, you're getting rid. I thought when you said top notch all the way that you had embraced the notch and you had.
No. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Top Notch is the name of the app. All it does, like quite literally, I looked. All it is doing is it's taking your desktop wallpaper and generating a new image with a black strip at the top.
But isn't there stuff up there?
Yeah.
Oh, so the stuff is still up there.
Yeah, that's not affected. Mac OS adjusts. Like, the traditional like light colored menu bar in macOS, it would make all the text and icons black, like tray icons.
Oh, I thought you were literally carving off like the top 20 pixels of your screen and not using them.
Oh, all it does is make the part, because they default to transparent everything now. I don't know if you have used a Mac.
I haven't used a Mac in a long time.
In a while. Yeah, out of the box, they have got transparency turned on for everything in the UI, which is also not great.
I like that.
Of course, you can disable that, but all it's doing is just saying, hey, this exact area where the menu bar is now black, and so then it turns all the menu text and tray icons and clock and everything white, and you can't even see the notch anymore.
I miss the transparency in Windows.
Wait, does 11 not have it?
11 doesn't do transparency by default.
At all?
I think you can turn it on, but it's by default it's off probably.
What? God, we should. Well,
you should.
I don't know about should. I started to say we should do a thing, but maybe I'm the only one who would ever care about this. I was going to say we should chronicle all the dumb names for Windows Chrome, like Windows UI.
Arrow
flourishes. Arrow is the one I always think of.
Arrow is the classic one.
Is Arrow Vista?
Arrow was Vista. Arrow is when they replaced GDI the first time.
Okay. Arrow is the glassy one, right?
Yeah, it's the one that looked like frosted glass.
And then there's the Windows 10 Arrow one, which is acrylic.
I don't think there's. I don't. I don't think.
Right?
No, it's not acrylic.
Would you bet money on it?
No.
You would not?
No.
Okay, because it is in fact acrylic.
Really, that's a stupid name.
Yeah. Yes, the Windows 10 era transparency stuff was acrylic material, I think. Anyway, ask us anything about operating system UI elements.
I don't know. It's weird because when during the time then the windows were transparent, everything was happening in the browser, and the browser, that's when Chrome moved the tabs up above the bar, so there was less window Chrome on the windows you were using all the time than ever before. So we never really lived in a transparent age, Brad. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. Windows should be opaque. That's my one old man opinion. The only one.
Yeah. I like transparent windows. I don't have strong feelings either way though.
Honestly, it's mostly a holdover from when that like tangibly has slowed down the computer.
Yeah, we're probably fine now.
Yeah, I think we're probably past that. Seabird Song has a question for me. When unpacking and setting up the LG OLED, did the thickness of the panel alarm you? It's very impressive that it can be this thin, but I almost wish it was a little thicker and sturdier, because every time I had to move mine, I was terrified it would snap in half. Yes.
They're super scary.
That was unnerving. It's very thin. They're very clear. You don't lay it, like when it's in shipping or you're bringing it home, don't lay the box down flat. It needs to stay upright. Like they show on the box, don't even tilt it, presumably because the screen can't support its own weight. The crazy thing, though, is when you get it home, this is LG, I can't speak for Samsung or Sony OLEDs, you have to attach the base, and the only realistic way to do that, and we literally had to look up the video on LG's support YouTube channel to confirm this, is to lay the panel down flat on a table.
The thing that it tells you not to do?
Yes. Well, I think once it's out of the box, maybe it's okay. It's bizarre. And so they tell you to lay the panel down, face down, flat on a table to screw. The stand is quite heavy, and it doesn't, the panel does not slot into the stand. It only is held on by screws, essentially.
Ugh.
And so
you have to screw it on from the bottom like a PS5?
Kinda, yes. So you lay the panel down according to their videos. You lay the panel down, you just screw the base on, blah, blah, blah. Here's the crazy thing, though. They show it themselves, LG employees in this video, when they're done screwing this relatively heavy stand onto this panel, they pick it up and set it up upright by the panel. They don't even touch the stand. These two employees literally grab the corners of just the OLED panel and pick the entire TV up by them and set it upright. It's bizarre.
It's shocking to me that it's dainty enough that seems like a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah. And it's got some flex to it. When I was like, okay, whatever you say, support channel. And so we picked it up, and it's got flex to it. The panel is a little wobbly, a little wiggly when you pick it up like that.
How much does this whole thing weigh?
I don't know. That's a good question. Most of the weight is in the stand, I would say.
Yeah. So if you wall mounted it, you just put it on the Visa mount and call it a day, right?
Yeah. You would just not use the stand at all. Yeah, it was a bit unnerving, but it seems to have worked. Now there's a did I mention this last week? There's a firmware bug where it just keeps shutting itself off randomly.
You said that when you're playing Xbox games or something.
It seems quite widespread, and it seems to have just started in the last 6 months or so, because that's where I see all the posts pop up from people saying, hey, after update, blah, it's just turning itself off now. And I was like,
just what I want is to update my TV and have it stop working.
TVs with firmware bugs that may or may not ever get fixed.
I don't like that.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff. Here's a question for you from Infelicitous Rips. I have been wondering for ages now how Patreon shoutouts get sorted. Is it length of patronage? Something to do with the Patreon backend and unsorted .text on Will's desktop?
So it is to do with the Patreon backend. On the Patreon, like if you have a Patreon, you have a page that lets you see everybody that's subscribed to your business, and you can filter it by tier. So on the monthly episodes, I filter by tier, and then it's just whatever the default sorting is. In the weekly episodes, the ones that are just executive producer tier patrons. On the monthly episode, that's everybody, I add both executive producer tier and associate producer tier patrons. And then I sort by the tier so that I get all the executive producer people together and all the associate producer people together. And I think that maybe does it alphabetically, but I'm not sure.
The Patreon backend is a mysterious place full of wonder and danger. It is
weird. It is a weird, like the thing about all backends that are not normal human facing is that they're slow. all of them, like Steam, Xbox, the Patreon thing, our podcast upload. Actually, I think our podcast upload interface is probably the fastest of all of the non-consumer facing things. And I guess that's because that the company that makes that business is hosting podcasts for people. So we are the consumer facing for that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, Simplecast is our podcast host, and I generally like they're working with their tools fairly well.
If you want to do a podcast, I would endorse Simplehost. I'd say they're a little more expensive, but they're pretty good.
Yeah, they're not bad. Question from Jay Krauska here. You bolded this. I didn't have a good answer for this, but I hope you do. Let's say I have a collection of ripped media and that a buddy of mine also has a collection of ripped media, and we want to combine forces and make an even greater collection of ripped media. What tools or mechanisms exist to help make this happen?
Well, there's this thing called the internet.
Okay.
So back in the day, at a period of time in the, let's say, mid 2000s, like 2005, probably, a friend of mine invited me to a party where he was like, do you have an external hard drive? And I said, yeah. And he said, you have MP3s, right? And I said, yeah. And he said, and you've ripped them all yourself. They're not like shitty ones you downloaded from Napster. It's like, yeah, I did, ripped them all myself. He's like, load up all your MP3s on this external hard drive, bring it to my house on Saturday. And there's going to be a bunch of people there. And, the statute of limitations probably expired at this point. So we all sat down and plugged into a couple computers there, and everybody swapped all of their MP3s into subfolders on everybody else's external hard drives. And it worked really well. I didn't actually end up adding most of the MP3s that I got through that method through to my collection because look, MP3 tagging, MP3 ripping. It's all like I was an EAC guy. I was ripping with error correction on. I wanted to make sure I didn't have any weird glitches, the whole thing.
Log file with every rip.
Yeah. I wanted to know what was there. And I would usually do MP3s and FLACs at the same time. Right. Which took time. But I did pull a handful. Like there were some people who had like some good bootlegs and stuff like that. There were some bands that I'd never heard of before. For a long time, I set it up as just a way that I could hit play some random music, and it would use one of the Pandora type things to generate a bunch of like vibe lists, basically. But I think that so depending on how you want to go about it, that's a good place to start. Like putting your stuff on a drive and going to somebody's house. Right. If you don't want to do that, you can use Plex has the ability to share media libraries across the internet. If you open up your Plex to the outside world. So like I could share a library of music or TV shows that I've ripped off of discs or saved from over the air or whatever, to Brad using the power of the internet. You can do that with music as well. Plex lets you set up per library sharing for individuals. Like, for example, I have a bunch of home movies that my sister can watch on her TV in Tennessee that we've ripped and stuff like that. So that's probably the best one. I haven't used the Plex alternatives at this point. I think that some of that is Plex Pass only. So you have to have paid for Plex in order for some of that to work.
Okay, I know. So Plex is not a solution I had considered here. You could just each assemble your own library and then share them, and in the Plex client, then you're picking different libraries. It would be like.
But when you search, it shows you everything in all the libraries you have access to.
And in fact, they do the same thing literally every other content serving platform does, where they hash a home page that just includes content from every library you have shared with you all in one place. So that's not the worst idea, actually. I had been thinking more of along the literal lines of combine all the files into one place and et cetera, but maybe the Plex idea is not the worst. I've put a fair amount of time into Jellyfin.
Yeah, how are you finding it? I haven't spent enough time with it yet to have an opinion.
Talking about Plex alternatives, it's good, but it's still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And some of that is down to the individual apps on the client end, as it is with Plex, depending on what device you're playing to, your experience is going to vary a lot, but it's just, there are a lot of features that just aren't quite there yet.
It's a big, there's a big surface area of stuff that people have to interface with, right? Like there's the server side, which is complicated. There's all the transcoding stuff that has to happen, which is complicated. And then there's web clients, PC clients, iOS clients, Android clients, TV clients, Roku clients, there's a bazillion different things that have to all come together and work for like something to be as good as Plex. And the nice thing about Plex, despite its problems, is that somebody who's not an enormous, like I set up my parents with an account and they're able to get and look at home videos, right? And like I don't think Jellyfin, when I used it, would pass that test.
So you can it can do that quite well now.
Well, I mean, I don't think that they could figure out how to navigate the UI consistently. Because I found last time I used it was the Apple TV interface was pretty rough still.
Yeah, the apps are not quite there, but they're close. Like conceptually, that everything's laid out pretty much exactly like a Plex library. So like I think that's probably fine. And like the biggest advantage is there's no remote authentication. You don't have to go through Plex's servers for people to register accounts and log in and stuff. So you just make them a local account and they can just sign in and it works.
But I mean, the authentication thing is one of the things that makes it easier, I think, for people because they understand how that works. And then you have one Plex account rather than 50 Plex accounts, right? Yeah. Anyway, I would do Plex. You can, like Brad said, you can set up the homepage. So you have like the new stuff from Brad's server, the new stuff from Will's server, the new stuff from Steve's server.
Yeah. There's been a lot of activity around Jellyfin's development, judging by their subreddit and the GitHub issues and commits and stuff. Like there seems to be picking up a lot of steam. So I'm hopeful that it's going to get where it needs to be.
Is it open source
quickly? Yes, it's entirely open. Like that's the whole selling point is nothing proprietary. No.
We have a podcast that we talk to open source people. We should get them on.
That's actually not the worst idea. I had not considered that.
I hadn't thought about that.
Then I can ask them, hey, why does Jellyfin, when it transcodes, just transcode at the same bit rate as the source media? Because that doesn't seem sensible. Like Plex transcodes at a way higher bit rate than the original file, so there's no generational quality loss. And like if you have a 6 megabit video in Jellyfin and it needs to transcode, it will transcode a 6 megabit reproduction of it, which does not seem
from like H265 to H264 or like
either way. From everything I've seen, it doesn't matter the codec. It'll just take whatever bit rate and do it again, which seems questionable from a quality loss standpoint.
Non-optimal.
You can't configure stuff like that. That's a low level issue I have with it on top of a lot of the UI stuff. Anyway, still a good time for hosting your own media. Always.
Yeah. Especially like if you have a decent upstream, if you have 100 megabit upstream, you can do high quality sharing across the interwebs.
Yeah. Fishy J. Why do most consumer outdoor security cameras require you to use their own wireless base station rather than an existing Wi-Fi network?
So there's two questions that are similar to this one. There's another one about somebody getting Blink cameras. And being
I can just read that one here too.
Yeah.
Brooksy was here is this one. I bought a set of Blink cameras during Prime Day, just installed them and found they only record short clips. I'm very dyslexic and have been trying to read about how to fix this and have become very frustrated. Is there a camera system you would recommend that kind of just works?
So the reason everybody uses proprietary, the reason wireless cameras use proprietary network connections is because they're lower power. So if you have a battery powered camera, it needs to check in every once in a while. It can't run the stream full time, or you'll have to charge it every 3 weeks or so. And people like to charge things twice a year, maybe once a year, which is why generally they pair a motion sensor with the camera, so that the motion sensor triggers and that turns on the camera, and then you catch you miss maybe the first half second or something, but you get the rest of it. The solution to avoid this is to get RTMP cameras that use like power over Ethernet or something like that, and you can run those 24/7 and pipe them into like NAS, or you can save the video on a NAS and hook it into Home Assistant or whatever your service of choice is.
Yeah, Home Assistant will pull. It has integrations for cameras.
Like for example, you can get. I bought an Amcrest camera for like $50, $80, I think. That's a 4K camera that has night vision in the whole thing, and it connects directly into Home Assistant. If I wanted to save the video, I could save it to a folder on my NAS. I don't, but yeah.
I mean, I'm obviously I'm sure people know I'm like the king of DIY and open source type stuff, and I would probably do something like that. But I do wonder if if you just want to get a set of cameras and like some kind of receiver that works, I wonder if that is a bit fiddly for the average person who just wants to install and go.
So if you want something that installs and goes, I generally recommend the not buying cameras from vendors you've never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
I have Nest cameras. I've had Nest cameras that are pretty good.
Sure. Are there any security concerns there with stuff that?
Well, so that's
no name brands.
Yeah, that's why you don't buy no name brands, is because if you're buying a no name brand and it goes to somebody's server, then you're assuming that everywhere in that chain has good security, and they've consistently proven that they do not. So like anytime you're connecting to a service, I want the service to be run by somebody who I trust to follow their privacy policy and to have best security practices and stuff like that. So like I wouldn't buy a Ring camera because Amazon sucks. Right. The Google has been pretty good about this over the years and hasn't had a whole lot of problems. And when they've had problems, they've fixed them. The Nest cameras will upload video 24/7 for the most part. I think there's a couple of battery only ones that are motion activated that do the same thing that the Blink camera does. But the video quality is good. And you get like my parents have a Nest camera at their house, and they get like a notification when somebody leaves a package, and it does a relatively low bit rate video stream that's pretty high quality, and it like lets them know when a car drives by. It lets them know, you get a notification when there's an animal in the front yard. It detects packages and it recognizes faces, which is creepy but kind of useful when you're not at a house all the time.
Dude, speaking of animals in yards, holy crap.
You got bears?
No, my uncle does, but boy, like, I don't know what's going on. There are so many more animals around here, like visibly in yards coming up to houses and stuff than there were 20, 30 years ago.
Is it because people have cameras and you're seeing the videos of them now?
No. It's like I'm looking out the window and seeing them. Like there are tons of deer around here, and there were never deer growing up. I think it might be overpopulation in that case.
Yeah, deer went up and down over the years for us when I was a kid, because like some years there'd be like 30 deer in the backyard and then famine the next year.
Yes. My first thought was like maybe they're being displaced by climate or like housing developments or both. But I think in that case, it might just be more deer than there used to be.
We see coyotes in the street and hear mountain lions in a way that we didn't 10 years ago where I live.
Yeah. I mean, there are two hawks that have taken up residence behind my apartment in the middle of San Francisco recently.
That's cool.
That's interesting. There are some interesting sounds that are generated by that arrangement.
Don't take the pigs for a walk, Brad.
No, definitely not. But yeah, like out the back window here, it's like minor Bambi here. There's like squirrels and chipmunks and birds flitting to and fro everywhere around the feeders and stuff. But yes, we stopped by my uncle's place up on the mountain last night. Yeah. And showed us multiple pictures of bears on his deck outside, like literally right outside his window.
Yeah, I honestly, I think some of that has got to be that everybody has a camera in their pocket. So like the things that we just saw before, we now can take a picture of. Right.
Well, sure. But I mean, he's literally up in the middle of nowhere on the mountain. And these are black bears like outside his door. I mean, that's not that common. Like
I think I saw bears once when I was backpacking, but it was unusual to see them where there were people outside of like Gallenberg and stuff like that, where they'd become trash fiends.
Yes. Trash fiends.
Does your uncle have to have like special garbage cans now?
I don't know. Actually, I didn't think I'd ask him about that. He had an encounter with like some of them are like, some smaller bears, like less of a threat. But he said at one point he's a large man. And at one point there was a bear right outside on the deck that is bigger than him.
Yeah.
And the dogs got out there and it was real bad for about a second. But anyway, they escaped.
Bears are bad.
Yeah. I mean, bears are fine. They just, you need to respect the bears.
Look, the teddy bear wildly misrepresents the lethality of your average. Black bears are relatively chill, but most of the other North American bears are bad news.
Brown bears are the really rough ones, right?
Brown bears and grizzlies and Kodiaks are all bad.
Right. Yes. Okay.
And I think two of those are maybe the same kind of bear, but I don't know. I'm not a bear expert.
Bears are kind of cool.
Look, man, they're omnivores. I get it. I'm down with the bears. I got no beef with the bears.
The bear is an interesting animal now that I have to sit here thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right. Unimaginative pseudonym. Have either Brad or Will read Showstopper, The Breakneck Race to Create Windows NT and the Next Generation at Microsoft? It seems like it would be their style. I have not even heard of that, but it is going on the list right now.
Yeah, I literally put on the list when I was reading the notes. If it's interesting, we'll do an episode about it because I'm like, that was a fascinating time in computing.
Yes, I've talked about this on numerous podcasts at this point, but I've been slowly making my way through John Romero's new memoir about his career in game development, and it's like it has extremely whetted the appetite for more kind of tell-all books about various software development from that era.
That book is $2 on Kindle right now.
Which one? Showstopper?
Showstopper.
Is it recent? Did it come out fairly recently?
Because
I know there have been different books about Windows.
2014.
Oh, well, that's reasonable.
Yeah,
that's not a Sinofsky book, is it? Didn't he do a book about early Windows?
He did a book about Vista, I think.
Oh, that was about Vista,
or maybe Windows XP.
Anyway, yeah, it feels like we're getting there. Where the statute of limitations on people dishing has lifted.
Look, the Vista story is going to come out soon, man. It's like that. Honestly, the book I want to read is the book about the Windows XP SP2. Like that was when Microsoft was like suddenly decided security was a thing they had to give a shit about. Mm-hmm. And there was an organizational change over a period of like 6 months that resulted in them ditching Next Windows and going on and doing SP2 and fixing the security problems with Windows XP and all sorts of stuff. It was like
anytime there's a major initiative, especially like a software one that completely crashes and burns and they have to scramble and get something else out there rapidly is a fascinating.
Yeah, because like Windows XP, the worm situation on Windows XP was an absolute disaster. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's
You know what I would love to read a book about? If anybody knows of one, please write in. I would love to read an account of Copland, the failed Mac OS or System 8, I should say.
Oh,
because it wasn't Mac OS yet at that point. Copland was a historic disaster that they developed for 2 or 3 years and like never even ran stably to the point that they had to kill it and turn the last service release of System 7 into System 8. And it's ultimately what precipitated them buying Next and bringing jobs back and moving to Next Step as the next Mac OS and all that stuff. And I would love to read a like behind the scenes account of all that.
That's fascinating.
Yes, they talk. There's a lot of Next Step talk in that Romero book also, which is.
I can see that they were a big Next house at id in the 90s.
Yes. Caters to my interests. I'm right in the middle of all the Quake strife right now, like all the what went wrong on Quake and how it led to everything falling apart.
I'm interested in. I'll pick that up.
It's very good.
His perspective. I'd be interested because he is mellowed with age in a way that I think many of us did. Right, like we were 20 firebrands in our 20s become a little more mellow and introspective in our 40s and 50s. So I'd read that book.
Yeah, he is extremely diplomatic in this book, I would say. Okay, question from Tuller. With undervolting being the new overclocking, I have one question. Is it time to bring back the turbo button? I think it would be neat to have a simple physical switch to toggle between a more limited TDP and a higher one.
Yes.
I support any features from the beige box era of personal computing coming back. Give me a vinyl case badge while we're at it, please. Can I have the little square cutout inset on the case to put a vinyl case badge on?
I want one of those puffy ones.
Yeah, that's our first computer ever had the little puffy vinyl. People's Computers was the local shop that we bought it from.
Oh man.
And it was just a little black People's Computers badge on the front of the case.
I either want that or I want a shiny Intel Inside sticker.
Yes, those are also good. I mean,
you can't have one of those, Brad. I'm sorry.
Most CPUs still come with a square, like my Ryzen, my new AMD.
I'll have to look in the box. I don't think I looked. I think Adam opened the CPU when we did my computer.
I'm pretty sure the Alder Lake in my NAS also has one.
This idea of a low TDP mode is really interesting. I bet you could do that with the Stream Deck, actually.
Maybe. Yeah, it already exists in software in a lot of cases. In fact, it absolutely does for both graphics cards and CPUs, but I don't know if you could toggle it on the fly. For GPU, you totally can.
Yeah, for GPU, because like my GPU fan's not spinning right now.
MSI Afterburner would let you do that if there's a way to hook that into the Stream Deck. The thing I was going to say here is that undervolting seems to have been a very short-lived phenomenon, because now all the manufacturers are not forcing you to drop the voltage. They are just setting, I don't know how they do it electrically, but they're doing their own supported power limiting, which is not, maybe it's still modifying voltage under the hood. I don't think so. I think it's like just capping the power draw. Like, it's called eco mode on the last couple generations of Ryzen's. Like, you've seen eco mode, right? In the press, probably. You can just go into the BIOS and say, like, hey, limit this to 105 watts instead of 170. That's not exactly TDP. My understanding is that number does not represent straight TDP. It's some similar measure of power consumption. And the newer, I don't know if this is not supported on older cards, but like 40 series NVIDIA in an MSI Afterburner, you no longer have to tweak the voltage curve. There's just a straight up slider that is just power limit. Like, I've got my 4090 set to 80% power right now. It's not, it may not sound like a distinction that matters, but you're not undervolting, which can cause instability. You're setting a supported power limit, which does not.
Well, and also the manufacturers are getting much more aggressive about how much they cycle down when you're not actually using when you don't actually need the power, which is nice.
I hope they start trending in that direction. There has been such a race to the top on power consumption for just eking out extra benchmark numbers for a while now, and it sucks. And I hope that, because it's very wasteful of electricity, not to mention extra heat, and you're not losing much performance.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind not having the extra heat right now.
Yes. Question from Warbird. I believe there's another one that pairs with this. If you know where it is, I don't have it in front of me.
Directly underneath it, I moved it up.
Oh, great. Perfect. All right, the Warbird question. What's a concept, tech or otherwise, that has been mission critical but somehow passed you by for far too long? Example, I worked as various flavors of Linux admin, DevOps, and ops for more than half a decade before I found out about tab completion, and only then by accident. It was a very strange combination of feelings, mostly elation and a good bit of rage.
Yeah, that's a big one to miss.
Yes, tab completion, anybody doesn't know, just add a command line, type part of a command, hit tab, it will, or a file or anything, it will either complete it if there's only one option, or give you a list of options if there's a bunch. I guess like an add-on to that, it took me until like very recently to realize the tab completion works for like a ton of stuff in Linux.
Yeah,
and not just base commands for binaries that are in your path or files in the current directory. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, ZFS supports it. So if I like type half of a data set name for ZFS and hit tab, it'll auto-complete that. Like, like ch own. Like, if you're ch owning a file, if you're changing the owner of a file, it'll match against all the users on the system. So you can type like the first letter of a username, and it'll hit tab everywhere is my advice, and see what happens.
Well, I was gonna say, the thing that took me a long time to realize is that you can hit tab to do arguments for something too. Like,
yes,
if you have to do a path in an argument, you can tab complete that path on most stuff. It seems like there's like, it's weirder when it doesn't work than when it does.
Yes. And in fact, I assume this is the same for Bash. I use Z shell, but you can write your own completions. Like, you can actually, I don't think I would take the time to learn how to do that, but you can write your own completions. There's a mosquito on this table. Can I kill it?
Yeah, please.
It just flew. I didn't get it.
Well, Godspeed, little mosquito.
Oh no. I bet I've gotten about 4 dozen mosquito bites in the last week.
You want West Nile? That's how you get West Nile, Brad.
It's bad around here. Anyway, let me read the other question here.
Yeah.
The Moon Room. I play Fortnite with a regular crew that developed back when Will mentioned the game getting good on the podcast. Today, one of those regulars realized mid-match that perks existed. What useful features of your favorite games or tech did you go far too long before discovering?
Okay, so on the first side, I didn't realize that you could configure the quick links in Windows. You know, that the thing. Well, in the old days, it was at the top of the left column in File Explorer, or Explorer, I guess is what it's called now.
I think it's still File Explorer. Is it not still there? I think it is in 10.
It's still there, but now they put Home and they put the fucking OneDrive folder above it because Microsoft, and you can't move the OneDrive folder
above the quick access.
It's above the quick access.
That's terrible. In 10, it's still below. Like, quick access is still at the top where it should be because you need it to be quick.
Well, so for a long time, you couldn't it defaulted to open the OneDrive, so then you have to making the quick access useless. They finally fixed that, so that's an improvement. But you can pin stuff in there, and there's places all through Windows File Explorer and like the Windows Start menu, like you can pin stuff on the Start menu, which they don't exactly make obvious. Like you have to right click it and know that there's a pin to start option there. I didn't know about pin to start. I just pinned everything to the taskbar for years.
That's I still prefer pinning to taskbar generally. Well, I have slight bone to pick with quick access menus since we're talking about it. Those are not aliases to the thing you're quick accessing. You can't rename them like shortcuts. They are just the thing. Does that make sense? So like, let's say I had two different folders, both called audio in different locations. If I pin both of those to quick access, they both just say audio.
Oh, and you can put different icons on them though.
Can you?
Well, you have to do it. You'd have to do it for the file for the folder.
Yes, that's okay. I just ended up naming them different things.
That's how I have two things called TechPod and two things called videos, and one has an icon and the other doesn't.
Right, like they should just let you rename those. Those should be shortcuts.
Do you know about the Windows key +1, +2, +3, +4, +5?
Yeah, I don't use it as much as I should, but yes, that's a good one. That's
one of my all-time faves. That Windows key +1 opens the first icon on your taskbar. Windows key +2 opens the second one, and so on.
My problem is past about 4 or 5 icons, it gets harder to count.
Well, I just always have Firefox, File Explorer, Discord, Steam, and OBS.
Yeah, for the first few.
It's the first 5.
And if you have, like, for example, if you have a browser on one and a bunch of browser windows open, then it won't open another one. It'll cycle through all of them, I think, is how that works.
It depends on the browser, I think. But here, I'll tell you in a sec.
That's possible.
Nope. Cycles through the tabs.
Yeah. Oh,
Firefox cycles through the tabs until you have more than like 10 or 20 tabs, I think.
Yeah. Gosh,
what do you got? Anything?
Good examples for this?
This was a hard one to come up with. I'd be curious I bet people have interesting ones here because I bet there's some stuff that we don't know about that people have discovered.
Yeah. Yes. And in our fancy new forum for weekly episodes, in the thread for it is a thread, right? That's what they're called.
It's called a post.
It's called a post, not a thread.
It's not a thread. Threads are threads. Posts are in forums.
Threads means something different in Discord, even though they now have a feature called forums, which you would expect to contain threads. In fact, they are posts.
Yeah.
In the post for this week's episode, I hope people will share stuff like this that maybe other people don't know about that could be helpful to them.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yes. In Fortnite has a live service games. This is a problem we have as somebody who's working on a game that has had 48 updates in the last year and a half. You constantly have to be getting new players in to look at the game and watch them play to find out what they don't understand that you've added to the game. So Fortnite, I didn't realize you buy emotes in the game, so you can do I can do the Dougie, right? I didn't realize unlike most games that force you to load like some subset of emotes at the start of the game, Fortnite gives you access to everything you've ever bought in every game. You just have to scroll through the list and you hold down, you long press the emote button to get the wheel up, and then you can scroll to other pages and get more and more and more and more and more. They're alphabetized by the name of the emote. I had no idea. So if you know the name of the emote, if you know I have no idea what it's called. It's like dodging bullets or something. It's a Matrix. It's a Neo's bullet dodge is what it's called. So if you go to the ends, you can do the Keanu Reeves thing from the Matrix where you lean back. That one's good because sometimes the characters wear sunglasses and sometimes they don't, Brad. It depends on if they have glasses or eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But also the glasses are scaled to the size of the eyes. So if you have a character with really big eyes and the glasses are enormous, and if you have a character with tiny eyes, they're very, very small.
That's pretty good.
It's a good game.
Novelty, oversized facial accessories never get old.
Yeah, but I cringe to think about like a game like WoW that's been running for 20 years now, and like how do you expose 20 years worth of UI? I mean, I'm sure they've redone it at least a handful of times in the last 20 years, but like just that level of the knowledge that people who've been playing that game and working on that game for such a long time have versus say me coming back to that game after 20 years. Like, I don't know how you communicate that without being really intentional about it. And I'm always in awe of the people who do that well.
Yeah. My impression from the couple of times a year I hop on the PTR just to run around is that they mostly are just catering to the people who have been playing for a long time at this point.
Yeah, and I assume that there's a fair amount of, hey, my computer ran WoW in 2009, so why does it not run WoW now?
Yes.
So they can't change too much.
Yes. Okay. I had one. I lost it. I need to find it again. Did he say oven or stove? Stove. Here it is. Argills. When I moved into my current residence, it came with a smart stove. Once a year in July on the dot, the control panel starts flashing an error and requesting that a technician be called. Rather than do that, I open it up, unplug the connectors, and plug it back in, resolving the issue for another year. This has gone on for 4 years. I'm paranoid that this is some service scam and the thing is pre-programmed to, quote, break after some time. Am I being delusional, or could that actually be the case?
So our oven has an error that comes up after a period of time that's like that is because the pilot light needs to be cleaned.
Okay.
Like there's carbon buildup on the pilot and under the glow plugs that hit the gas. Anyway, there's a thing that has to be cleaned where the fire comes out of the to light the fire for the oven. And that's not based on any sensor. It's based on time. So it could be something like that. I think as long as the oven continues to light, you're probably okay. I have not connected our stove to the internet. We have a smart stove because you can't
for the best.
Yeah, you kind of can't buy a stove that's not a smart stove. Mm-hmm. And I think I hooked it up when we first got it because I was curious what it did. But like in order to make it turn on remotely, you have to preload it and say, hey, here's the settings I want. And I want it to be available to turn on remotely. So it wasn't like I could just jam a casserole dish in there in the morning and then turn on the oven at the end of the day.
I'm based on my recent experience with firmware bugs in televisions, I'm going to say any device that has firmware and controls fire, maybe not a good idea. Maybe.
I mean, the fire part is mostly not controllable by the computer.
Okay, that's
only
good.
The oven.
Well, okay, fair.
Well, because the gas stove has knobs.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
That's fair. Still, I don't know, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That reminds me, I have to call them and get them to come and replace the glow plugs on my oven because it hasn't worked in a couple months. So.
Glow plug is a cool name for a part.
You know why it's called that? It's because you plug it in and it glows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's like truth in advertising. The part where this is just call a technician on a timer and not, hey, here is what might be wrong or here's what needs to be cleaned. Just, hey, put in a service call maybe seems a little bit.
I mean, I've changed the thing that lights the fire under an oven before. It was a fairly involved process that involved like me laying on the ground and reaching 4 feet to the back of the stove from the front. I don't think that that's a user serviceable part. Like mine needs that now, and I'm going to get somebody to come do it rather than do it myself.
Yeah.
It's also under warranty still. So I guess that changes the dynamic a little bit.
Sure. Another question from the Moon Room. Baldur's Gate 3 is selling like hotcakes, presumably. I'm sorry. Let me reread that. I see what he's trying to say now. Baldur's Gate 3 is selling like hotcakes presumably did at some point in the distant past. I guess hotcakes were, in fact, very popular and still are.
Yeah. Who doesn't like a hotcake?
That's true. As I type this, they're at 800,000 players on Steam. How much of the success do you think is down to the game being cool versus a ton of marketing dollars spent? Does marketing on Steam significantly change their recommendation results? Did they spend that much on marketing for that game? So
it was in early access for a really long time, which I think they did instead of a massive marketing. Also, it's a Wizards of the Coast game. Yeah, 3 years. As far as I know, I don't think there's a way to spend money marketing. I mean, there's not a systematized way to spend money on Steam. I'm sure you can talk to Valve and come up with something, but it's not like the App Store on iOS or Android or Amazon or any other place where there's an advertising layer on top of the store layer where you can pay to have your product featured easily and like is accessible to everyone. The recommendation results on Steam are mostly based on how your game is doing on reviews. From what I've been able to tell. If you want to do better on Steam, having good review scores and having lots of reviews coming in constantly from people who bought the game on Steam is the best way to do it. Yeah. So the corollary to that is if there is a game that you like on Steam, take 2 minutes and hit the thumbs up button and write a review of it. Even if you have criticisms of it and you think it's something you like, don't, for God's sakes, just don't leave thumbs downs. I get up every morning. The first thing I do is look at Steam, and I'm just like, oh man, somebody's like, I really love this game, but I'm like, oh shit, here it comes.
No time for thumbs downs.
Well, I mean,
don't ruin Will's day.
It's not about my day, but it's like you're actively hurting the game that you like if you give it a thumbs down.
Yeah.
Right now, the Anacrusis is very positive on Steam for the last 30 days. That means we're above 80%.
That's good.
If you get into overwhelmingly positive, which is in the low 90s, I think, or mid 90s, all sorts of magic stuff happens.
Oh, I bet.
It's really good.
Is that just hash from the recent reviews, not the all-time reviews?
So,
oh wait, they break it out for both, right? Don't they list a qualitative rating for both all reviews and recent reviews, right?
So it's like
all-time reviews are mixed, but recent reviews are very positive.
If you have an overall, they did that to stop review bombs, but also it's good for people who are like trending up, like our with the exception of a few days here and there where we have like a rasher of negative reviews and that have fall off after some positive reviews. We've been mostly or very positive for like the last year in the 30-day rolling total. But our average is mostly positive for people who bought the game. And then if you do stuff like free weekends, all the people who play during the free weekend get an opportunity to leave a review too. But those don't count in the totals unless they buy the game. So like it's a weird, the Steam thing is a weird system.
Yes, I believe that, certainly. How about a couple, three more real quick here?
Sorry, I wanted to say, like, in terms of marketing dollars spent, I don't think they spent a ton of money on Baldur's Gate. I didn't see bus ads. I didn't see billboards. I didn't see a lot of TV or internet video ads. There were a handful, but not more than I would expect for any other like AAA. I would expect they spent a couple $100,000.
Yeah, honestly, I think a big part of it is that people are just very hungry for that kind of RPG again, and there are some of them out there, but not a ton. And this one has the Dungeons and Dragons stamp on it. You know, that's obviously going to boost it somewhat as well. And I like Baldur's Gate in itself is a hallowed name.
Well, yeah, and there's a famous GDC talk. I don't remember who gave it, but it's the gist is nobody knows your game. Like nobody knows what your game is. That is the thing everybody fights, right? Is that even if you've been making games for a really long time, unless you're super giant and you've released 5 games and they've all been bangers and you have this built up audience that loves your work, you especially if you're a new studio, nobody knows your games. Now, Larian's been making games for 15 years at this point, and they've made a series of bangers. But still letting people know that there's a new Baldur's Gate. It's not like Baldur's Gate is a franchise that was, the last Baldur's Gate game came out 20 years ago. So, like they did early access. They did it really well. They listened to the community. They engaged with people. They reacted and they shaped the game based on that feedback. And they used the audience to test, which is like the best kind of marketing is somebody that says, yeah, I played this game in early access. Like when Jason told me about Dead Cells, Jason Ostriker told me about Dead Cells 5 years ago. He's like, yeah, I played this in early access. It's super dope. And I was like, well, that's I can't no better endorsement than, hey, I've played this entire game and it's really good before it was done. And
I still want to keep playing it now that I've played a ton of the unfinished version.
Yeah. Like I literally downloaded it the other day because they've added so much to it since the last time. Dead Cells, incredible game. Anyway.
Yeah. Did that get its PS5 release? I need to check. They were going to do a free PS5 upgrade for people.
I don't know. They have they added the Castlevania. I bought the Castlevania thing the other day.
That stuff is rad.
I hadn't gotten to that environment yet, but yeah,
it's very cool.
It's like super. It's so cool that the thing that inspired them ended up getting looped into the game.
Yeah, yeah. How better do you know that you've made it than when your own inspiration wants to work with you?
Yeah, it's I absolutely love that game. I've been shout out for Deadlink in the interest of promoting other indie games. It came out a couple weeks ago, and it's a like roguelike. It's like imagine Doom's kind of combat loop where you have like a couple of powers and jumps and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's roguelite where you run through a series of arenas.
I saw this going around, and there are a lot of this type of shooter these days. So
this is the best one of them that I've played by a huge margin.
Kind of run together a little bit, but I did not realize this was a roguelite.
I looked at it and thought it was like Gunfire Reborn, but it is a different kind of game than that.
I might have to give this a look.
You knowing what you would like this a lot. The shooting is very fast and crisp and doomy.
Yeah. Also, there's another one called Turbo Overkill that just came out that apparently is also extremely good.
Well, I'll check that out.
Which is put out by Apogee Entertainment. Perhaps you've heard of them.
I've heard of Apogee.
Apogee factors pretty heavily in that Romero book about the dawn of shareware.
Isn't that where they worked when they were doing Commander Keen or something?
No, that was Softdisk. Was the company they actually worked for, but Apogee was their publisher for. Did Apogee invent shareware? We should talk about shareware sometime, but not right now. Not right now, but shareware was a fascinating concept.
So Turbo Overkill looks grimier. Yeah. Dead Kill is very crisp.
Dead Link, right?
Did I say Dead Kill? Dead Link, yeah.
Dead Link looks like a modern game, not like a retro throwback visual treatment.
It shoots like an old game though.
Yeah,
it's for old men.
Well, great. I'm debating whether to read this Vertices 2 question about whiskey. What is your whiskey of choice? It seemed like Will was suggesting an anti-peat agenda in a recent episode. Please talk more about whiskey. Thank you.
I wasn't suggesting it. Saying
look,
peat, I was saying if you want dirt with your booze, then just go get a mouthful of dirt.
Man, just go get a bottle of Lefroy. It's like
I'll drink a bourbon, thank you.
I think I think I stole this from somebody. I don't remember if I read this somewhere, but the super peated Islays, which is type of Scotch, are like drinking a campfire put out with seawater.
That sounds horrible.
It's great.
Ugh.
It's the best. It's the best.
I'll like a nice sipping bourbon, but I don't even really drink anymore, so it's not.
I'm kind of on a whiskey hiatus myself, but it is the very definition of an acquired taste. But man, it's great. Maybe we'll talk more about whiskey some other time.
We could get Adam back to talk about booze again. He'd be down.
I got deep into. I haven't had bourbon in like years at this point. I got way into Scotch and Irish whiskey over the last couple 3 years.
Bourbon got really expensive because it got unreasonably popular for a little bit there. So longtime bourbon drinkers suffered because all of your garden variety inexpensive daily drinkers like Basil Hayden and all that stuff suddenly were $50 a bottle.
Yes. Or like my new favorite Scotch is the Balvenie 12 Double Wood. Yeah. Which if you're lucky, you can find for $50 around these days, but mostly like 60. And so I've only gotten one bottle of it so far because I got it on a sale. Yeah. But then I happened to look up a review of it from 8 years ago, maybe, at which point it was like $33. Well, that's so the price creep on anything in that space. It's a weird. We're getting far afield of the show here, but it's an interesting like supply chain issue because it takes so long to produce, you know? I mean,
that's it. A decent bourbon is at least a 7-year pipeline.
Right. And Scotch, I mean, some of this owes to climate, but Scotch is usually like the minimum age for single malt is usually like 12 years as considered like a good cutoff. So it's just like you have to preload your inventory so much.
Well, it's funny. I talked about this with Adam when we did the tested video with him, but it is totally straight up supply demand economics, right? Yeah. Like when there are more people that want to drink the Scotch than there is Scotch, the price goes up, and when there are fewer, then the price goes down. The same thing for bourbon and like your vodkas and gins are a much faster production process, so they can just ramp up or ramp down on any given year.
That's the thing is that if something ends up being hot, you can't just ramp up production and supply or satisfy the demand, right?
Well, people try.
Well, yeah. So sorry, rambling here. Like if you read a lot of reviews of like emerging distilleries and stuff like that, a lot of them will get their operation going, but then source the distilled spirit from someone else and like age it themselves to try to get going faster as they build toward distilling their own, but that takes like years.
Yeah. Or like the place in Alameda started out making like kind of artisanal gin and clear spirits, and then moved into bourbon and stuff like that as after they'd been up and running for a few years. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's less risky.
I think Adam talked about it when we had him on. There's the firm MGD, I think is the name of the company in like Indiana that supplies like some insane amount of the actual whiskey that is produced in America. Whiskey,
yeah.
Like they distill all of it and then just send it to people to do what they will with.
Yep.
Anyway, I guess we did talk about whiskey a little bit. Man, another question from Warbird. I don't know if this is tech related at all, but
Warbird's the new cake batter, I guess. Sorry, cake batter. You've been replaced.
How does Brad handle the welfare of the pigs during cross-coast jaunts? Pig sitters? Pigs in a pet container must be small enough to fit underneath the seat without blocking any person's path to the main aisle of the airplane. I would never do that to them.
I can't imagine they would do well on the plane.
They would not do great. I mean, I think they would make it, but they would be very frightened the whole time, let's say. And also the setup to care for them, I would have to buy so much stuff on the other end to properly care for them.
You'd have to have like a cage, and
you have to build a whole new cage and get hay in and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Here. Well, hay in North Carolina is less of a problem, it turns out.
You're probably right. We could find some good Timothy around here.
Yeah.
Our solution now is that we don't travel together anymore.
Oh, that sucks.
It sucks. If one of us has to go out of town, the other has to stay home.
We are successful pig sitters, Brad. I'm just saying
that's true. We've discussed it actually. It has come up as an option before.
We have pig sat a couple of times now. No fatalities.
For the longest time, the lady who ran the rescue down in La Honda, where we got our first piggies from, also did boarding for incredibly reasonable prices, and she was incredible. One of our piggies, when we boarded them there for like a week, had an extreme health issue in the middle of it. And she like dropped everything to care for her literally around the clock to keep her alive until she got better. Like it was literally need medication and like syringe food need to be administered every like 3 hours around the clock. So she was straight up getting up in the middle of the night for a couple of days to keep our pet alive.
That's what you want. I mean, that's above and beyond. But
and took her to an emergency vet. But again, she ran a rescue, had been running a rescue for like 20 years and like had extreme experience with this stuff. Anyway, once she moved out of the area, and it's hard to, no offense, once you've had that level of,
yeah, no,
but we have not settled on a new pig sitting situation just yet.
Well, I mean, I assume anybody who has any kind of like non-dog or cat pet, like this is a common problem. Like you have to have somebody, like if you have a bird or something, it's not like you can just take them to the normal boarding place.
Exotics are a whole thing when it comes to vets and care, and like different, every animal's or every species is different, but piggies' health is very fragile.
Yeah, they seem a little delicate.
They can go from seemingly okay to life threatening in like 24 hours if all kinds of different stuff happens. So you have to be kind of on your toes. And yes, there is a shortage of exotic vets in the city right now, and it's bad.
It's bad. Brad, I like to watch the YouTube channels with the pigs where they have like 50 pigs that live in a pig barn.
It's pure joy.
It's very good.
That's really nothing negative about a video of like 50 to 100 pigs just having a bunch of vegetables thrown in.
Yep. Just chuck in a bucket. They chuck in buckets of vegetables, maybe a piece of watermelon or something. And the pigs go ham.
Unadulterated excitement. Yes. The pigs go ham.
Yeah.
All right. Two more quick ones.
We should do that email too, I think.
All right. Let me do the email real quick. I forgot about that one from Sean. You'll have to tell me what Azul is here. I picked up Azul for Christmas on your recommendation, and it's become a big hit in our house. The biggest fan besides myself is my 6-year-old daughter, who picked up the mechanics and rules surprisingly quickly. Do you have any new games to recommend, especially ones geared toward older players, but maybe your daughter was able to pick up easily? Another recommendation I have beyond Azul is King of Tokyo, which my daughter also picked up quickly despite some more detailed rules. P.S. Do you think Azul could scale past 4 players if you bought a second copy?
So Azul is a board game. It's a tile placement board game where you have to place like the rules are basically like you can put there's 5 different colors of tile and you put them on a 5x5 grid, and you can't have 2 of the same color tile on the same row or same column. So you like there's placement rules about how it all works. It is maybe my all-time favorite board game. So it's a hard follow-up for games that a 6-year-old can play. Catan Junior is really good, is a big hit in the house. A 6-year-old who's pretty good at spatial stuff can play Carcassonne. pretty easily, which is another classic. You might have played that on Xbox Arcade. There's a really good iPad. Like one of the things I like to do, especially for like wildly popular classic games like Catan and Carcassonne and stuff like that, is grab the iPad or console version for like $5 and you can try it out before you spend $40 on the real deal. The Seven Wonders is another good one for adults. It's a how do you describe it? You basically are you're collecting cards that generate score in different ways. There's like 5 different ways to get score, but it's a drafting game in that one hand, like you pick a card from your hand and then you pass your hand to someone else, and people have to keep you keep passing your card around. So it's kind of like you have to kind of keep track of what's going on in the different in everybody's hands as you play. There's a kid-friendly version of Seven Wonders called Seven Wonders Architects that simplifies that a little bit, because the keeping track of 6 different kinds of cards on a 5-player table is hard for small brains. Seven Wonders Architects simplifies that dramatically, and it also shortens it. So it's the good thing about Seven Wonders is everybody plays at the same time, so you don't have to wait for people. It's not like somebody has to decide what to do on their turn and then you're waiting. It kind of works the same as Azul, where you just play moves very quickly. Seven Wonders Architects is a good version of that for kids. It's relatively new. We play that a lot with my daughter. Splendor is another really good game. There's 2 layers of mechanics for that. One is that you just score what's on the board, and then the other is that there's some bonus cards. If you take out the bonus cards for younger kids, it makes the game much more accessible. So Seven Wonders for adults is fabulous, especially if you're teaching people to play more complicated games. Catan Junior is great for kids. Seven Wonders Architects is great for kids. And then Gina and I have been playing a lot of Lost Cities, which is a head-to-head, like all-time best head-to-head game, I think.
That was a lot of information about board games. I'm impressed.
I play a lot of board games. I don't play as many as I used to, but I still play quite a few. We've kind of settled down into like a handful, and we maybe add 1 or 2 a year at most now.
Yeah. It seems expensive and also like space consuming. If you have a bajillion board games, that's a lot of shelf space.
Yeah. I just pile them up on a desk in the corner of my office, which is not an ideal solution.
Or just buy enough of them to make a desk out of them.
I need to replace the extra desk with some shelves, I think, is the next step.
Shelves are good. Storage space is good. Sitting in a basement right now in a house with a lot of storage space, boy,
I would love to have
always
storage.
use more storage space.
San Francisco houses, we don't have enough storage space, it turns out.
Yep. I don't think I could not buy a house without a basement. I don't think at this point. All right.
I got bad news about Bay Area houses, Brad.
I've got some other bad news about Bay Area houses. Okay. Letitus is the last question here. In the WireGuard segment, you discussed the great use cases for a home VPN, like protecting network traffic at an airport or internet cafe, or extending your Pi-hole's DNS and ad blocking when you're away from your home network. But you didn't mention your strategy for identifying your base IP address. Does your ISP service come with a static IP? If not, do you have a preference for domain name and provider? And how do you keep the DDNS updated? Also, thanks for the Ionic name drop in the EV trip talk. Loving mine after 3 months and 3,500 gas-free miles.
I haven't met any Ionic drivers who don't like them yet. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, that seems promising. I'll let you go first. So what they're asking about here is, if you have a VPN at home, when you're away from home, you need to know your home IP address to connect to that VPN. And in theory, pretty much every internet provider out there, if you're not paying for a static IP, is going to assign you one dynamically that could change. In practice,
theory, yeah.
In practice, on my last, I don't know, probably 2 ISPs for I feel like it's been like a decade since my WAN IP, my home IP, public one, actually changed on an internet provider, like kind of ever.
Yeah, my home IP hasn't changed in a really long time, but I also have Duck DNS running on the Home Assistant.
Yeah.
So Duck DNS is a dynamic DNS provider. It's free. It has lets encrypt support, so you get encrypted DNS. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You can set up I think if you want to pay for a domain, top domain of your choice, you can, or you can do like whatever .duckdns.org or one of their domains. You can do a subdomain of one of their domains.
Yeah, like dinedns.org was the classic one that you would see a ton back in the day.
Yeah.
And you're assigning, like, what is that? A subdomain, I guess is the name for that. It would be like willsmith.duckdns.org.
Yeah, that's
the address you're going to get. And those are free. Like you said.
How'd you know my domain, Brad?
I had to think about it very hard. Like they suggested in here, you can just go buy a domain name and use that. I've said before many times now, I feel like I'm shilling for them. Porkbun.com is a great registrar, is who I use. But I use Namecheap's DNS service because it's free. So
that's nice.
I have a domain that I bought or registered. I don't use one of the
public facing one. Yeah.
So I have my own domain, but I use Namecheap for they have a free dynamic DNS server. I run it on my router. It sounds like you run it on your Home Assistant.
Yeah, it's just a HACS add-on for Home Assistant.
My Edge router, in fact, I think probably a lot of consumer routers have dynamic DNS built into them at this point. You could even run it on a Windows machine or a Mac. It's just a tiny program that just updates DNS every so often and says like, "Hey, this is still the numeric IP here that you should map that domain to." That's all it does. So you can run that
at this point.
Run it on literally anything behind your firewall.
My NAS will do this too. Yeah. I like doing the DuckDNS Home Assistant plugin rather than using like I don't have an ASUS router, but if I had an ASUS router using ASUS's service or whatever, because it's a little bit more portable. So I'm not stuck with the like I have a DuckDNS URL rather than a ASUS's backend URL or Netgear's backend URL or Synology's backend URL. Yes. So if I change off of those pieces of hardware, I'm not boned. I don't actually. Like the interesting thing is I use Nabukasa for the Home Assistant remote access. So I'm not actually using the DuckDNS also provides the Let's Encrypt certificate for HTTPS communication to the Home Assistant instance. You have to set that up manually, but it's worth doing. Anyway, it's the Let's Encrypt / DuckDNS combo it's an easy way to get both of the dynamic DNS and the SSL.
Yes. So. Now, the thing I wanted to ask about, which is it's a whole other topic. It's like a Patreon episode topic to dive into. I've been thinking about running a reverse proxy at home for a long time. If I ever actually had time to dig in and understand certificate authorities and how to set everything up.
What's the benefit of running a reverse proxy at home, Brad?
So reverse proxy would intercept all traffic to different services traffic coming into your LAN from outside. And delegate the traffic internally to those. So you only have to I guess the biggest benefit that like everyone should probably be able to identify with is you would only ever have to open one port to the reverse proxy, and all traffic goes through that to it.
How does it know where to end up?
That's part of what I barely understand is that you have to configure it to say like. Well, so traffic would be coming to subdomains. So, like, I'm trying to think of a good example here.
Got it. So you'd have
Jellyfin.
You'd have like a Jellyfin, and you'd have an SSL, you'd have an SSH, and you'd have
so like traffic. Okay. If I understand correctly, so like traffic sent to jellyfin.brad.domain would hit the reverse proxy, and then it would know that on that subdomain, it would send it along to the relevant thing. One of the other, in fact, probably the biggest benefit that I actually want. You know how you've probably got like everybody's got a bunch of devices on their network that don't have valid certificates. So every time you open their web interface, Chrome or whatever complains and says, "Hey, this website might not be safe." Like you got to click through warnings before you can get to it. You can set up certificates for all of those, or maybe even just a certificate. That's, again, I don't understand super well yet.
So the problem,
so like that solves that. That basically solves the like, hey, this website is not safe when it's just something running on your LAN thing. It's a blanket way to fix that problem.
And then you set up that internal domain to be the domain to be because the problem often is that like if I set up the DuckDNS, the certificate for the DuckDNS URL, it works when I'm outside, but it errors out when I do the inside private address because the certificate doesn't match.
Yes. Now here's the thing I actually want to ask, and hopefully the networking channel absolutely on the Discord will have answers for this because people really know their shit in there. Now I'm wondering if you could set up the reverse proxy on a remote instance, like a virtual private server, and run the dynamic DNS on that.
You'd have to VPN everything into
So
that.
that's my question. Is that you would then have to tunnel everything from the VPS to your home, right? And I assume you'd probably use WireGuard or something like that for that.
Yeah, but there's going to be performance implications.
That's the question: is if it's worth doing, if it would actually hinder the throughput enough to matter. I mean, the big advantage there is then people can't just get your home IP.
It's probably fine for everything, but I wouldn't run games through that.
Yeah, maybe not. I guess, or even I don't even know about video streaming actually. Maybe. But that's the privacy would be the big advantage there, is that when people did a lookup on your domain, they would get the IP of the VPS, not the IP of your router at home. So it's kind of extra layer of obfuscation. But again, I don't know if that's actually worth pursuing or not.
I think it's better to just security through obscurity your domain.
If let's say you stream a lot of video on the internet and occasionally your domain ends up on there. See, it's it's a specialized use case. It's not something everybody needs to worry about.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem.
Yes.
I would.
Yes, I've had my old domain show up on there before, and so I've changed all that stuff out. Anyway,
yeah, that's a dilly of a pickle.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'll talk to people on the Discord, which is a great place to come and talk to people who know a lot about stuff like that.
It is a fabulous place. If you want to get access to that Discord, if you don't have access to that Discord, you would like to be on that Discord, you can do so by going to patreon.com/techpod and supporting the channel, backing the channel for as little as $5 a month. At the $5 tier, you get access to the fabulous patron exclusive episode, which we'll record this week sometime, I guess. Mm-hmm. And we talk about projects we go more in depth. Sometimes we answer more questions, spillover questions that are maybe Discord specific from the Q&A episode. Mm-hmm. Often talk about just kind of ongoing projects and things like that. The other thing you get access to is the Discord, which is full of beautiful, smart, funny, delightful human beings who have a variety of interests, just like you do, probably. And you can go to patreon.com/techpod. We're 100% listener supported. We don't make you listen to a bunch of ads. So we do appreciate the support from everybody because you make the show possible. And it's the end of the month. We're going to thank both executive producer tier patrons and associate producer tier patrons. So thank you all. But first, thanks to all patrons.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to me prattle about network stuff endlessly.
Yeah, I'm curious at what I'd love to get feedback from patrons about how they like the new forum structure for this week's episodes. We did that specifically because people who maybe listen a few weeks behind often feel like they miss out on the conversations about the episodes, and now they're nice and segregated from each other, so you can go in and just kind of scroll. I mean, look, the official forum motto is never scroll up. Mm-hmm. But sometimes if you want to hear what people said about the old episodes, you can scroll up. That's fine in that context. And now you can be in the appropriate context for the episode. So please post maybe in this week's episode forum and let us know what you think.
Yes.
And if you don't see the forums, restart Discord and they'll pop up for you. That seems to be fixing that for most people.
Yes. Also, a quick thank you to Cake Batter. My Discord time has been limited while I've been out of town, but he wrote a bot. That is going to auto create a thread every week for each new episode.
Oh, that's fabulous. I didn't know that was actually the last I saw that was somebody could create a bot.
Yes, he went and did it. I have not had a chance to look at it or figure out how to set it up. No, I think we have to do it.
Yeah, no, I do. Okay, I'll reach out then. Make that happen.
So it seems very Docker centric. I think he wrapped it in a Docker configuration, and it's probably time for me to learn more about that. So I might hit him up and.
Okay. I can put it on it's easy for me to chuck it on the Synology too. I have a Docker setup there these days.
Anyway, thank you for doing that. That hopefully we'll just get a nice thread right along with the episode post every week.
That's awesome. I think, shout out to, I think Fortune. I want to say Fortune. No, Wedge and Fortune, mostly Fortune did the setup, pulled in a bunch of old episodes when we moved over to forums and did a bunch of the mod work there. So thanks to Fortune for that.
Yes.
But thank you to all of our patrons, but especially our executive producer tier patrons, including Andrew Slosky. Bunny Fiend is now an annual member of the Make People Say Things Club. You save some money if you go to an annual sub rather than a monthly, just FYI.
It's true.
Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, David Allen, James Kamek, Joel Krauska, Jordan Lippett, Just Wedge 3.0, Nick Johnston, Pantheon, makers of the HS3 high-speed 3D printer, and Twinkle Twinkie. Thank you also so much. Yes. And also thank you to our associate producer tier patrons, including Alejandro Navarro, Andre M. Burke, Arthur Geese, Ben Tallman, Dave Ulian, Eric Frey, Eric Klein. We're 3 Erics deep now. Wow. That's a lot of Erics. Graham Banks, Jad Rita, Jason Rooney the Ref, Matt Walker, parentheses Walkman 8080, close parentheses, Nathan Phelps, Sanchit Kumar, Steve Lynn, Thomas Shea, and Tom Hilton. Thank you also so much.
Yes, thank you. How many Erics do you think we can get? What if we just, maybe every Eric who listens should sign up just to see if we can set the record from this?
Just going to slap this podcast and see how many Erics we can fit in here. You can fit many Erics in here.
That's right. But yes, thank you to everyone.
I expected more Dans, honestly, if I was being honest. But yeah, thank you all so much, and we will be back next week with another episode of the Tech Pod. Have a lovely week. We'll see you then.